claim that the age of a true gentleman is far behind us, but here at 284 Media, we disagree. He may appear in different guises today, but the values and ideals that make him a gent still stand. Gentlemen, aspiring gentlemen, and of course, our partners that hold us down. I'm Ron Grant. Welcome back to Season 7 of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show that is poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. Now don't worry, it doesn't always involve suits and bow ties, but instead, real-life lessons that truly translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. Thank you so much for taking this journey with me. My next guest today is one of the most talented Virgin Islanders you would ever come across. Very unassuming, cool, calm, and always collected. He is a photographer, graphic designer, and for those who do not know, a poet. Allow me to reintroduce to you the one and only Kamaal Lettsome. We'll be right back after a quick commercial break. Brilliant Hands and Minds tutoring services, one-on-one tutorials in math and English, intense homework assistance, academic enrichment, school projects, effective communication and public speaking development, sign language for adults and children on Saturdays only. Registered with the Virgin Islands High School Certificate Program, Brilliant Hands and Minds can help you too. Offering intense curriculum-based training to help you or your loved ones get their high school diploma. It's time to make your family's education a #1 priority. Hurry, space is limited. Brilliant Hands and Minds Learning Center. We are the trained education professionals. Welcome back, everyone, and thank you so much for sticking with us. We are in the heart of Season 7, and as promised, we're joined by the one and only Kamaal Lettsome, who has agreed to be on the set. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Thank you for having me.
As I mentioned, most persons would know you for Epic Designs and Photography Studios as a photographer. Usually always behind the camera. Today you're switching it up with us and sitting
Indeed.
in front of the camera.
Yes.
But for those who do not know, tell us who Kamaal Lettsome is.
Kamaal Lettsome is someone from a very young age who always knew that I want to do something in art.
Okay.
My first aspirations was to be an animator, a cartoonist. Then that changed to illustration. And then there was a weird point where I wanted to be a blacksmith. And I remember telling my grandmother, I want to be a blacksmith. And she said, you want to change your name? And I was like, that's not what it means. Because I've always liked working with my hands and everything like that. And eventually, in the rise of the information age, computers, I was like, okay, I like computers. I wanted to be a computer engineer, which was like the furthest thing from the art. And it was at HLSCC that I was doing general education with a concentration in computer and math, on path to just do something simple and then go off and look at computer programming or computer engineering. And then, funny enough, one summer in 2003, Butch, he had just traveled, he came back, and I remember we ran into each other in the second floor, and he was just like, cuz, I know I want to do. He's like, I was like, what's that? He's like, graphic design. He's like, I see this school up in Atlanta, I want to do that. And a light bulb just went off in my head. I was just like, graphic design, computer, ads, two things I like. I want to do this. And it's funny because the following year, his dad passed. And so his career path like drastically changed. But I was like, graphic design. He told me about the school. I researched it, I looked at it, and that is the school that I ended up going to. So you could say he helped guide my career path.
Fair enough.
That way. And then when I was in school, one of the classes we had to do was something called digital photography for non-majors. And I did the class and I was like, oh, you find out different aspects of photography. And it was interesting. And then I ran into a friend. Well, I met someone who was going through the photography program, and I tell everyone, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd. I like technology. So I was so fascinated by the look of their camera, and I just started to have this intrigue for photography once again. And I remember telling my mother, "Ma, I want to buy a camera." And through different things, I was able to buy a camera, and just started messing around, and it became just, I do graphic design, I do photography, and it really just didn't really cement itself until I moved home in 2010, and then just started kind of building from there.
Beautiful. Well, it's interesting. We have somewhat in common. I went to a art school as well, a private art school. But I love the fact that you mentioned the role of just having a conversation with one of your dear friends kind of did for you, and how that ended up charting the way for you to go to design school. Fast forward now, you have been in the field for quite a number of years and assisting a number of persons, companies, corporations with really solidifying their brand and the look. And I want to talk about that because I don't think enough credit is given to the creative process and what it takes to guide someone through their thoughts and ideas to the final point of final product. What is it like for you as you work with your clients in the Virgin Islands on a daily basis?
Sometimes it's fun, it's new. Other times it can be frustrating. But I am most times lucky enough to work with people who get me and I get them. For one of my clients, I ended up in the position of being a designer for them / photographer because of where I previously worked. I worked at Harney's from 2012 till 2017. I lost my job after Irma. And funny thing about that is when I lost my job, I always knew if I left Harney's, I would try to make it on my own. And on my birthday of that year, my boss, who shared the same birthday as me, called me out. She's like, "I need to talk to you." And from the time she said that, I was like, okay, I know what's coming. So she's like, "Yeah, this is happening. So you're going to have a talk tomorrow." And then, they're letting people go and what's not. So I got my 30-day notice. Okay. And weirdly enough, I didn't panic. I was just like, oh, okay. Because up until that point, every time I got comfortable, something shifted that kind of drove me further towards this goal that I set. And once again, the same person who put me along the path to graphic design. I remember telling everyone, they were like, "What happened?" I was like, "Yeah, I lost my job." And they were like, "Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do?" I was like, "I'll try to work it on my own." They were like, "You sure? You sure? You sure?" I called Butch. I like, "Bye, the man let me go." And he was like, "Congratulations."
Aww.
And I laughed, and because I knew how he was, and he would always say, "So when you gonna stop wasting your time and go on your own so you could really, push forward?" And so I laughed and I appreciated that. And so the person who brought me into one of my clients, they sat next to me for 5 years. So I got a call was it 2019? And it's like, "Hey, come on, I'm here now, and they need some help, and I work with you, so we're gonna be using you. Okay, thanks." And I was like, okay, because I'm still getting my bearings and everything, now being self-sufficient to a certain extent. So to this day, they're still one of my most common client. We go back and forth. She up to this week, I drafted something, I sent it to her, and she's like, "What is this?" And then she sends me a corpse in a coffin, like, "You're killing me." And I'm just like, "Ma'am, what is your problem?" And we have this back and forth.
Very brutal honesty.
Yes, but it's never offensive.
Of course, yeah.
It's just all in fun. And sometimes I'm like, "Man, am I talking to her too rough?" But then she'll come back at me a certain way and I was like, oh, yeah, you deserve all of it.
Yeah.
But we always look out for each other, and that creative process can be so brutal at times, trying to do new things, maintain a certain standard, and just...
But it's also a very vulnerable space. And I don't think persons necessarily understand that aspect of it. You're giving of your best, you're sharing of your work, but you're sharing it with the world and allowing them to, like your colleague, scrutinize it and nitpick it.
Absolutely.
But I want to go back to, because not many persons would perhaps have handled it the way you handled. But what did you learn from, what was your biggest takeaway in the lesson of being laid off?
It's not the end. It's really not. And sometimes it's a blessing in disguise. I said, I've been saying it recently. I tell people if I went back 10 years, I would never even be able to envision this is where I am right now. I've probably done the most business within the past 2-3 years than I have leading up to this point.
We can see it. You've been working.
Yeah. So it can be a very stressful process, especially when you know there is nothing to fall back on beside yourself. A lot of people, they'll see me and they'll be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I work for myself." And it's like, must be nice. And I laugh because I'm like, you don't even understand.
Correct.
Like working for yourself is like, if you don't show up, you don't get paid. Like you don't get paid. There are people who I know who juggle their own full-time and part-time, and even a conversation yesterday, one of my boys just like, some financial stuff hit him and he was just like, let me go and deal with the invoices and try to get some, income coming in. And I have been in that spot so many times. And what people don't understand is, and I've seen the memes on it, where it's like, there are times where you're looking at your bank account and you're just like, it rough. But I always tell people, like, it's not just me, it's God. Because even to last year, I finished paying off my vehicle. I bought my vehicle in 2016. So I was working a year before I got laid off. So I was like, coming up to the last payment, I said, wait a second. I paid off my vehicle. And more than, it was 6 years, or a little bit more because of Oma. And only 1 year I had short income. And I laugh and I was just like, it may not seem like much, but that's
it's a big deal.
Good. That's a big deal. And I was so grateful because I'm like, I see myself struggling, but I didn't realize how much I've overcame during that process. And so I've even told people lately that after my past 3 years, when I look back of being fired up until maybe 2022, I was like, I was really struggling, but I never realized it because it was just get up and go and do what I have to do and just make life happen.
I want to talk about the fact that you mentioned, it could only be God, because a lot of us a lot of persons don't necessarily give credit where credit is due or understand where the blessings flow from. But you have had a remarkable opportunity to have been brought up in a very holistic environment, that of God and nurturing. And I want to talk about that. Where does that appreciation for the higher power come from?
Primarily on my mother's side of the family. And I say that because my father's father died the year before I was born. Well, me and my brother, because I'm a fraternal twin.
Okay.
And I didn't really know his mother like that, because when she passed in maybe 93, 94. So I would have been about 9 years old at that point. So there was no real relationship. But I live on the eastern side of the island, Hodges Creek. Some people know it as a junkyard. But I've spent so much time in Pleasant Valley, where my mother's parents lived. And so, going to church was a part of their thing. So even people found weird, like I would leave East End to go seek out there for church. And it was just like, well, you live all the way up there? I was like, well, I think someone says most times children go to where their mother's church is. So I've heard. And my father isn't the biggest church goer. Mm-hmm. My mother is, so obviously building a foundation, didn't go there. So my grandfather was a praying man, church every Sunday early, first person on the bus to go to the church. My grandmother, same thing. And so my mother and all of them like developed that within them. So my mother passed it on to us. And so, well, Sally, I'm not as, what's the word? I don't go as much as I should. That faith is still a big part of.
And that's the most important. And that is what I can definitely, take away from your spirit. But outside of not going as frequent as you would like, you do some pretty remarkable things. For persons who may not know, apart from you being a twin, you were a music student in high school, and you also sing with your church brothers, the a cappella fellows. Tell us about that. You guys make magic, essentially, especially around the holiday season, caroling and that stuff. Tell us about that.
So I remember because the group started somewhere between 92 and 94. I cannot remember the exact date, but I still remember because the group existed before I joined, of course, and they would go around singing all over. And I still remember like being in my bedroom, East End, and around Christmas time, you'd hear all these voices come, and it was those guys. And we reached a certain point of age where it's just like, and because I am secretly Methodist, but they started in Rotong Methodist, but they were never, they were always inclusive. So if you wanted to come and join and be a part of it, all are welcome. And I remember sitting in church.
Of course, you need to be able to sing to come.
Yes.
That's important.
So, we were very invested in like church stuff in Sikal Methodist Church. And I remember, so we were going to school. Jeremy Vanterpool was my classmate from first form until third form. So we met in first form. And I remember one day we were at a concert and he was singing with them. And we were like, yo, what you gotta do to join them? Because you just was impressed by what they did.
The harmonies and all that.
Yeah, and I'm just like, just come. And I think it was 2000, me and my brother, because we did almost everything together. We went and we joined. And plus, I think at that point, one guy from our church was also a part of the group. So we knew like it was more of an inclusive something. And we showed up, we were embraced, and we've been a part of it ever since. It's just
something you still do to this day.
Yes,
wonderful.
To this day. Because even funny enough, when I came back from school, so many things going on, and I would show up for Christmas, but then disappear again. And at some point, I'm just like, either you make a commitment to it or you don't. And it was so ingrained in me at a certain point. It just like your faith, your everything, you do well with this, and people, you minister to people in that way. So I went back and I, tried to be more consistent. And now, we have the group has like expanded, contracted. We're now down to like 6 guys. Okay. But as we say, because you don't have other people to rely on now, you have to be so conscious of like your notes and everything. So like they like to say like the blend is so much better now because everyone understands what they're supposed to do, and we just give it our all. And it hasn't been easy because, as I say, guys have married, haven't got kids. Even to practicing lately, it's been a little bit difficult because
scheduling is tough, yeah.
yeah, because we practice on Tuesday nights, but no, I tell people like when you move up in your career, like I find people like they travel a lot, they have so many different commitments. So it's like, okay, one guy is traveling today, another guy is traveling this week. In fact, I'm supposed to travel tomorrow, and it's just like, okay, we're just, whoever's here, we're gonna make it work. And because at the end of the day, the Christmas is right around the corner, and we want to make sure that we can still minister to people the way they expect. Because we have fans that just, when I singing, when I come in, let me know and all that stuff. That we show up, I say we carol every year, and we show
up. I love that because you're really contributing to the. That's a huge part of our culture that in some cases has fallen off.
Yes.
So you guys are definitely contributing to that preservation. I know a lot of people look forward to you guys stopping and ministering in that way, in that fashion.
Yes, because we show up to people's houses like, oh yeah, let me know, I ain't got no money, I ain't got no food. I'm just like, it's okay. Like we don't do it for that. Like if you want to give us that, if you have, it's no problem. But we're not gonna look at you if you don't have it and be like, oh, we ain't going back to the house again. No, it's not about that. Beautiful. To see you enjoy the music, that's why we do it. And I think that's why we can consistently do it, because it's no other ulterior motive but just to minister and just help people feel good.
Beautiful. Viewers, we're here chopping it up with the man himself, Kamaal Lettsome, on The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 7. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome back, viewers, and thank you so much for sticking with us. We are chopping it up with the man himself, Kamaal Lettsome, one of the best and brightest and extremely talented Virgin Islanders. Kamaal, I want to go back to something that you mentioned early in the interview. You mentioned your grandma, and then you also mentioned your grandfather and grandmother again. You come from a very rich Virgin Islands heritage, deep-rooted family connection. A lot of persons didn't have the opportunity to share and fellowship and be loved by their grandparents like you did. Tell us about that relationship.
It was priceless, and as I have gotten older, I realized how priceless it was because hard work. You know, I learned both from my father, but also my grandfather. My first real job came from helping him. He worked at Naniki for until he retired, just being the groundskeeper, and he would invite us there on summers to go raking leaves and all that stuff. He owned cows, all of that. So I remember hating it at points because he would be like, okay, I want you and your brother to come with me to take the cows up the pasture, on a Saturday morning, which means if we're home, we have to get up around 5 o'clock so we can get down there by 6 to go through the hills from Pleasant Valley all the way up to about Sage Mountain. And it was quite a trod behind cows, dodging feces and all that stuff there. But as I got older, I realized that is something that most people, even my age, can't say that they have experienced. My grandfather, he wasn't someone that shouted, screamed, was my grandmother. My grandmother was the softest spoken person ever, always kind. If I came down there with anyone, you'd be like, yeah, ask your friend if they want anything to eat, anything want to drink. I'm like, they're good, they're all right, they say they're cool. You're sure? Just that hospitality is just unmatched. And I'm just, as I said, grateful that I was able to experience that. I think the only thing that saddens me a bit is, I don't have any kids at this point, and for them to not have known my grandparents, but they both passed, weirdly enough, one after the other. One is in September of 2008, and the other one was October of 2008. So, that was a tough time, but I am grateful for the time I was able to spend with them and all the lessons they were able to bestow upon me.
Beautiful. I can totally relate to your sentiments. one of my dreams was always for my son to meet my grandfather. Due to COVID and the hassles of travel, we weren't able to make that happen. But the relationship between grandparents and grandchildren is unmatched. So much so that I don't get involved with my son and his grandparents because I can relate, I can understand. And the relationship that you might have had with your parents is a totally different one. It's different when it comes to grandparents. So I'm so happy that you were able to take moments and lessons from both of them.
Yes.
I have some fun questions for you because being a Virgin Islander, we have a very unique and fun culture. So, favorite local cuisine?
People might kill me for this. I grew up on pea soup with milk and sugar. I stumbled upon pea soup without milk and sugar years ago when Max was still on Main Street. And after that, I haven't been able to go back to the milk and sugar. But to be fair, now I'm lactose intolerant, so I definitely can't do the milk.
We're gonna take your VI
but I still enjoy fungi and fish. Like my mom cooked some the other day, and it's still like that's home. Like you know, an old wife, piece of fungi, boil up everything.
Beautiful. A favorite local drink? It could be soft or alcoholic.
If I feel like it, I would say a painkiller.
Okay, all right.
Painkiller. Outside of that, a pina colada. If like, especially if it's hot outside, it's still an enjoyable drink.
Good choice. A favorite sister island?
Probably VG. Because I've traveled over there to do so many different things. So
Beautiful.
VG, yes.
If you could take someone from VI yesteryear, and that simply means that they're no longer with us, you could take them to lunch or dinner, who would it be and why?
That's a tough question.
I'll give you a double date if you need to pick
Somebody from yesteryear. Honestly, probably I would maybe do Lavity Stout. Because just being very close right now to seeing how the political landscape is, to understand his leadership, how he understood and dealt with criticism, and how he pushed forward regardless. Because I think people underestimate the difficulty of leadership.
Agreed.
Because everyone has opinions, and from a business owner point of view, I've learned to see things from so many different angles. So even when my mother complains about certain things one company is doing, I'm like, what you want them to do makes sense as a consumer.
Right.
But that business would go bottom up if they did what you think they should. And so everyone has opinions, but you still being able to filter what makes sense from what doesn't make sense, making a decision off of that, and then going forward with it regardless of what naysayers may say.
Beautiful, beautiful. What are you most proud of in being a Virgin Islander?
It's just, I don't know. I think our culture, everything is just unmatched. Because I always tell people, I don't mind, because I lived in Atlanta for almost 5 years, and that's like a second home to me. And people are like, you wouldn't move to the States? I was like, I would always be willing to visit the States. But honestly, home is home. Home is home. And I remember before I moved back home, it was tough. I was trying to find a job, unsuccessful. And one of my best friends, he said, listen, he said, if it's rough, come back home, He said, if you hungry, you can always go buy Panchy. He said, Panchy, buy a hungry I ain't guy right now, but let me get a leg and fry. He said, I mean, he ain't gonna turn you away. He said, you don't got that type of hospitality up there. He said, if you want to come home, reorganize yourself and then go back up, fine. But come home if it's tough, and you can always ground yourself again before going back up. And that statement has, still forever lives with me because hair is just an unmatched experience.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I want to thank you once again for sharing your story and opening up and being a guest on the set. But most importantly, we don't have to look, I keep saying quite often, we don't have to look very far for not only the best and brightest, not only the most talented, but persons who are so giving of their time and gifts to our community. And you have definitely, since moving back home, been one of those persons who have served wholeheartedly, whether it be in the church, whether it be in the community, and most importantly, really solidifying your brand as one of the go-tos. So kudos to you, congratulations.
Thank you.
Keep doing the damn thing. We
Try my
truly
best
see
to.
you. We
Yes.
truly see you, and we really appreciate your we appreciate who Kamaal is and
Thank you.
who he has been to us. And we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Viewers, that is all the time we have. We've been kicking it with the man himself, the one and only Kamaal Lettsome. You are in the heart of season 7, and we're so grateful that you're taking this journey with us. We'll see you next week.